Welcome back, everyone. Today I have a toy review for the final Prime Wars Trilogy character from Amazon. This one represents the Power of the Primes chapter, the final chapter of the Prime Wars Trilogy, and it is Punch and Counterpunch. A toy that hasn't seen a main retail release in a couple of decades now. We're not counting the club exclusive ones. Punch and Counterpunch are a very interesting surprise because the main character himself is an entirely new mold. It's not reused from anything. And at the same time, despite the fact that it is part of the Power of the Primes toy line, he does not form a limb for a combiner. He doesn't have that capability, despite coming with what you can see is Prime armor here that can turn into a hand. So he's kind of an oddball. Part of me wishes he did have the ability to be used for a combiner, just because, honestly, Power of the Primes just needs more limb bots. But if it meant sacrificing his dual robot gimmick to do so, I'm glad they didn't do that. Plus, we do already have a non-dual robot combining Counterpunch from the club. So, but yeah, Punch and Counterpunch does come with a special edition version of Prima Prime, which I am just going to refer to as Prima because I hate that name. It's got some nice glossy instructions here, just like his other two Prime Wars compatriots here. It's done up in like a nice light blue color, which is similar to the ones I used for the RID minicons. And, obviously they didn't go with red or purple because he's kind of both. Comes in a special edition box, which you can probably see is quite damaged. And I'm going to rant about that. So you can see the damage that has been done to this box. Specifically right here. It is just all kinds of smashed in. The flap won't stay closed. Luckily, no figures were damaged. And this makes me very angry because I have had issues with Amazon when I've ordered toys from them in the recent past. They're not gentle when they ship these. I have gotten boxes that have been bent and damaged in some way, but this is by far the worst offender. This thing is really warped. It looks awful. There was definitely a risk of actually damaging the toys inside, so I'm not happy. Now, luckily, I'm not an inbox collector, so I'm not going to bother returning it or anything. I'm going to end up throwing this out after the review, honestly, but let's take a look. So you have this really nice artwork of Punch and Counterpunch on it. You got Prime symbols. You got the demonstration for how this guy works. It's got a 9-step transformation between the two robot modes, 18 steps between the car and Counterpunch, or 13 between the car and Punch. It's got a little bio here saying, Punch is an Autobot double agent. He converts into an alternate identity Counterpunch to infiltrate the Decepticon ranks. Prime, the Warrior of Light, shows the Prime armor. And here is a little artwork insert. And if you've looked at my reviews for the other two Prime Wars characters, you know what this is for. Now that we finally have all three of them, we can place the boxes together to show off the completed artwork here. So you got Blastoff and his Combaticon buddies, you have Repugnus and his MonsterCon friends, and then you have Punch, as well as the twins Fastlane and Cloudraker, who were shown to work with him in the old TV series. So this is really cool. I may actually cut these off and attach them to a backboard or something and just keep that rather than keep the whole boxes. It does look very nice though, and it's a really good celebration of the whole Prime Wars trilogy. Right here's the Prime Master Prima, and he's very eye-catching. He's done up in this nice, cool, translucent blue. He's got a lot of silver paint on him, as well as some metallic gray or silverish plastic. His symbol looks very nice. It's got some light blue paint on the details there. And here is the regular version for comparison. They're both very good looking. They're both eye-catching in their own way. I'm not sure, honestly, which one I like more. They both look really nice in their silvers and blues. So yeah, really, either one is a good call. And honestly, it's a lot cheaper to get this version than it is this guy, because this guy comes with a $70 Throne of the Prime. So yeah, much cheaper option right here. Right here's Punch's car mode. You can see it's this nice deep blue. It's got red paint on the rims, which makes me happy. Translucent plastic on the windshields. Painted taillights. Clear headlights, painted grille, very nice looking. You can attach his prime armor to the top here, which kind of gives him, it looks like boosters. Now, the prime armor is actually a redeco of the one that came with Jazz, but it's not black like Jazz's. It actually may be hard to tell, but it's like a really dark metallic gray, which I think looks really nice. You can take that off if you want to, revealing some, I guess that's supposed to be a back windshield, even though it's painted silver instead of being clear, so it doesn't really match. It's a very nice looking car mode. It's angular and yet curvy at the same time. I just really love the way it turned out. You can see on the underside he can store his gun very neatly on the bottom there. So it just tucks away. He rolls very well, which makes me happy. There's no like dragging on the bottom. It's not an exact match to his original car mode, but it is a good update to it, and it just looks very good overall. All right, we're going to start with the Punch robot mode, because this is generally considered his default robot mode. See him wielding his little yellow pistol here, using his prime armor as a gun. His car kibble does like securely peg onto his shoulders here, so make sure you kind of push that on there and keep it nice and secure. He doesn't have real feet, which a lot of people I know have complained about, but the original toy actually didn't either for this mode, so it kind of works, I guess. His upper legs are actually blue plastic that are just really well painted, so I'm really digging that. Looks very nice. See some paint here, but look at that more in a bit. He's got these nice tampo details under his Autobot symbol there. It's very posable. He has pretty much all the posability you would expect. Knees can bend either way due to his transformation. There's a bit of a gap there, but you can't really see through it too well, so it's not that distracting. Now, one thing I'm not happy about is, even though his head sculpt is gorgeous, mine has this smear of blue paint right there on his mouth plate that I can't get off. And I'm not happy about that, because it's kind of an eyesore. If I do end up returning this guy, that'll be the reason. Here's his backside, and it looks good. It doesn't look like there's supposed to be like another robot on the back, really. Well, until you see the back of his head. That is obviously a mouth on the back of his head. Doesn't, flipping the visor down doesn't cover it up very well. So it's kind of distracting there. One thing this toy can do that the original can't, it hides his Decepticon symbol in this mode. It's kind of a little flip down panel. Right? The other one was just the original one was just stuck like this. This one can flip down, and it even reveals a 5mm port. Now, a lot of people point out this is a really good place to stick his prime armor. And due to the little thruster motif on it, ends up kind of looking like a backpack. Now, the downside, it doesn't work very well in Punch mode, just because his shoulders get in the way of the prime armor thumbs. There's not a whole lot you can do about that. Plus, this is clear plastic, so you may want to think twice before kind of cramming something into that hole there. But it's workable. It just really severely limits his arm articulation. So probably not going to use that in his Autobot mode there. Obviously, Prime I can plug in there if you want him to. Give him a little boost, Bam. And then he could also use this bit as a second gun. Because unlike the original toy that had basically a punch gun and a counterpunch gun, this guy only comes with the one regular pistol. So, kind of a good workaround, I guess. Now, one thing that really needs to be talked about with this toy, and it really hurts the purchasability of it, is that it appears every single copy of this toy comes misassembled. And what I'm referring to is, if you look at these connector pieces for his shoulders, now mine are fixed already, but they all come upside down. You can see there's kind of this flat bit on the top, and when you pull them out of the box, those flat parts are actually on the bottom, and they make it much more difficult to push all his panels together when you transform into car mode. It's the only major issue that it creates. But when you look at the renders of the toy and even look at the instructions, you can see that the flat part is supposed to be on the top there. So it does very much appear to be an assembly error. It's not hard to fix. You, in fact, don't need any actual tools to do it. Basically, the best way to go about it is open up this car hood section here, clear it out, and you are going to, it should work with your fingers as long as you have the strength to do it. I wouldn't recommend using metal tools just because you don't want to damage plastic. But you're basically going to separate this yellow piece of plastic and this blue piece. They're not screwed together or anything. They will, once you pull at them, they'll kind of like pop apart. And carefully pry them apart enough to wiggle off these shoulder pieces. I would actually recommend popping the arms off the ball joint. I wouldn't normally recommend that, but in this case it makes it much easier. And you'll just kind of wriggle them off, pull them off, flip them upside down, put them back on. Do that for both of them. And then press everything nice and firmly back together, and now you have a fully functional punch and counterpunch. So yeah, big issue that never should have been a thing in the first place. There do seem to be a whole lot of factory errors and assembly issues and all that when it comes to these exclusives that have been coming out lately. A lot of people are having problems with like their Nemesis Prime, the Comic-Con and Bumblebee, the cassettes, have some pretty glaring issues of their own. But yeah, it is annoying, but luckily, easy fix, so I won't hold that against the toy itself. Now, one thing some people have said is they believe that his little yellow gun is just a redeco of the one that came with Titan's Return Arcee, and I can definitely get why they say that, though I actually have that right here. You can see they are not the same piece. They do have a lot of design similarities there, but overall this one is bigger. Does have, kind of some extra detailing on it. Handle is more rounded as opposed to hers, which is very square. So they're not the same mold, but they do come off looking very similar to each other. So hope that clears up any confusion with those two. And now we have the alter ego, Counterpunch. And he looks just as solid in his robot mode as Punch does. He's got, some very different motifs. His car kibble on his shoulders is positioned differently. His face is quite different. Actually rocks a mouth rather than just a mouth plate. The fists have been flipped around, which is really cool. They got panels that open up on his forearms. You can switch between the two. So I'm glad they kind of included the panels on there. Hide the hidden fists a little bit. Just looks nice. He actually has something resembling feet in this mode. He's got some nice paint apps on his shins there. Back of his head is a little less conspicuous than Punch's because it's just a plate there. It's not an actual mouth. The jetpack thing works a lot better in this mode. There's not all this kibble blocking it, so it looks very nice. His Autobot panel doesn't sit as fleshly as the Decepticon one does when it's flipped down. It kind of sticks out a bit. So, looks like a bit of an oversight on their part. But overall, he looks just as good as Punch. He's got a lot more blue than Punch does, which I guess is supposed to go with the Decepticon motif of like blues and purples and stuff, but yeah, both robot modes are equally serviceable. They're just as posable as one another. I gotta say, I'm quite a fan of this total package here. And there you have it. The final entry in the Prime Wars Trilogy celebration that Amazon has put on for us. We got Punch and Counterpunch. Very unexpected addition, very welcome addition to longtime fans. And just a really, really great upgrade to an interesting character who didn't have the best looking toy back in the day. It was pretty oddly proportioned and quite brick-like. So yeah, I am absolutely pleased with this new take on him. I do wish they could have found a way to cover up Counterpunch's mouth in Punch mode, but what can you do? The smeared paint thing really bothers me on Punch's face there, but that's just my copy. I doubt everyone's going to have issues with that. Then obviously the assembly error is kind of a huge deal. You shouldn't have to partially disassemble your toy and fix it right out of the box. I don't know how that made it past, quality assurance and all that, but luckily it is an easy fix that you don't even require tools for. So I won't hold it against the toy itself. Obviously factory error. But that's my opinion. What do you all think of it? Love to hear from you guys in the comments section. If you like watching these reviews that I do, make sure to subscribe to the channel. If you want to see whenever I post a new review or a new discussion video, make sure to hit the notification bell. And with all of that stuff said, I will see you all next time.